Hi besties, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be the final reading vlog for the Infernal Devices, and I cannot believe we finally made it to book 3. I'm excited to start this book. I have zero idea where this book will take us because I feel like book 1 focused more on the plot, just setting up the world, while book 2 leaned way more into the love triangle and the romance. So I'm curious if book 3 will maybe balance out both of those kind of aspects, or will it lean more into one or the other? I don't know. So I'm very curious. I literally have no idea what will take place in the story. I'm going in totally blind. I still think someone's going to die. I think one of our main characters. I don't know who. I just have a nagging feeling someone's gonna die. And that's it. That's all I can predict right now. Obviously, we'll probably have a happily ever after at some point for one of our characters, or like things will be wrapped up. But the journey to get there, I have no idea. So anyways, I'm very excited to read book 3. I'm also kind of sad. I feel like I can't believe there's only 3 books of these characters, I think. I could be totally wrong. I know there's so many books in this world that Cassandra has made, so I could be wrong, but I just love this trio, or not even trio, because I also love like the secondary characters. I just love this little group that we have gotten to know in the past 2 books, and I'm sad to see it kind of come to an end in book 3. But regardless, I'm very eager to start it, and I can't wait to dive in and share my thoughts as I'm reading. So let's just dive right into the reading vlog. Okay friends, I am checking in with a reading update because I'm now 30% into the 3rd book, and I do have some strong opinions already forming. So just to recap, basically it's been a few months later since where book 2 ended, so we're not immediately picking up right where book 2 left off. A few months have passed, so that's currently where we are in the timeline. And then the Lightwoods end up having to move into the Institute, basically because their father gets corrupt and they can no longer live at the Lightwood mansion. Father ends up dying, so now they're living at the Institute. So that's some interesting dynamics happening. Will's younger sister is still here, and to be honest, I don't really understand right now her full purpose in the story. Like, I get why she's here for the sake of Will's purpose, because Will cares deeply about his sister and doesn't want her there, so there's some tension there. But like, to be honest, I really don't care for her moments in the book right now. Like, every time she kind of pops up, I'm like, ugh, I have to read about her. So that's happening. Jem. I have a bone to pick with Jem because he's being so annoying. Like, he's actually being so irrational and just doing things without thinking of the consequences. I understand partially what he is doing, but he's also hurting those around him. So basically, he's decided to take more of the demon drugs to feel more alive, because he doesn't want to be a shell of a person or just half of a man for Tessa. He wants to be fully himself, I guess. So he's taking more of these drugs, but as a result of that, it's essentially killing him quicker. And he goes through his supply that was supposed to last him for a year and basically just a few months. So he's basically running out of drugs, and come to find out, our evil villain has bought up all these drugs. So now our shadow hunters can't even get these drugs to extend and save Jem's life. So he's basically now dying. Like, I think they gave like a week time frame or something of like how long he has to survive. And I'm just like so annoyed at him doing this, because now Tessa and Will are distraught. Also just like the rest of the people at the Institute are on edge and just sad at the thought of Jem dying. So I'm just so annoyed right now. And I'm like, really, this is what's happening? So that's happened, and yeah, I just have some stronger feelings. Like, I'm just so annoyed at Jem right now, and I cannot believe that he is behaving this way, and it's just putting tension on Tessa and Will, and just sadness over the Institute, and I'm just really annoyed. That's basically how I'm feeling. I'm annoyed, and I'm like, it's making me not want to read because of how stupid Jem is being. I don't know where we're gonna go from here. So already annoyed at 30%, and I love that for me. I am now 50% into the last book, and I have some thoughts. I don't know how to feel right now. So let me catch you up on what's been happening. So basically, long story short, the Institute was ambushed and we found out that Tessa got captured by the evil guys. They captured her. So they're now taking her to the evil villain in a secret location. So that we don't know where. We kind of have an inkling maybe of the general area, but we don't know where exactly she's going. So Tessa's gone. She's out of the picture. And during this fight, Jem got severely injured / drained his energy. So he's basically floating in and out of consciousness. And Will's freaking out. Everyone's freaking out. And everyone's also kind of coming to terms that Jem is probably dying and that we need to say goodbye. And this makes me distraught. Like, tissues were had. I was crying. I was just like, this is so sad. And even more tissues were had because they bring in Magnus, or Will calls in Magnus to try and see if there's anything in his wheelhouse that he can do to either just prolong Jem's life for a little longer or just like help him in any way. So Magnus is there and they're chatting like in Jem's room, and Jem is like unconscious and they're chatting, Will and Magnus. And it kind of slips out during this conversation that Will has deep feelings for Tessa and is like in love with her, and that he needs to go rescue her, and that it's under the guise of Jem's wishes, basically. Magnus leaves and he's like, I'll let you say your final goodbyes and then you can head off and go find Tessa. Once Magnus leaves, Jem wakes up and is like, you have feelings for Tessa. And it's kind of like an oh shit moment. But then the two boys have a brotherly talk, and Jem is basically like, I'm actually glad that you have these feelings for her because now I feel okay sending you off to go find her, even though I'm probably going to die within the next 24 hours. And it was just so sad seeing this, like, two boys who have such a deep connection of friendship saying goodbye to each other and coming to terms with death is knocking at the door. Knife to the heart. And I'm just so mad at Jem because all of this could have been avoided if he had not like increased his drug usage this much. So I'm just so upset. So I'm in such a sad mood because I'm like, I don't want him to die. And I'm just like praying that he's not the character that dies. But then I also am like, what's going to happen now? I'm just at a loss. So yeah, that's basically what happened. And I think I'm just sad. Like, it was so hard to read this section of the book just because I'm attached to these characters. I love them. I love their dynamics. And I'm so heartbroken and just sad that they're going through this anguish and pain. So that's kind of what happened. And basically Will has now left the Institute on this journey because he thinks he knows where Tessa will be in hiding. So he is now on a one-man mission trying to go find Tessa, because also there's like higher up drama happening. Like, it's kind of not irrelevant, but it's just like every time it comes up in the book, I'm like, okay, but what's happening between Tessa, Will, and Jem? Like, I need to know. So yeah, I will say this book I think is doing a better job at balancing like the dynamics between like plot and action and drama, and then also the drama of a love triangle. I think that's finally coming to a head now, and I'm really curious to see how this plays out. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm so lost. I'm also just like dreading reading the final half of this book, I think, because I don't want it to end. I don't want to say goodbye to these characters. So that is my 50% check-in. I'm all over the place in my emotions, as you can tell. I'm like enjoying it, but I'm also distraught. I don't want these characters to like say goodbye. That is a 50% check-in, and I will either like check back in if something crazy happens, or I'll probably check back in at like the 75% mark. Friends, I am now 85% into this book, and I wanted to do a check-in because my God, so much happened and I don't even know where to begin. So this chunk of the book, since I last talked to you guys, is definitely more action-packed. We are on an adventure, kind of trying to find Tessa. We find her and a battle ensues. There's so many plot twists that happened in this that I just didn't see coming. The first point that I do want to talk about is we finally found out what the angel necklace that Tessa wears, like the meaning behind it, the backstory, the powers of it, everything, which was so fascinating. And part of me wishes that we had gotten this part of the story sooner, like in either book 2 or even in book 1, so that way we could have seen this thread used more often, like this plot line, this story used more strategically. So I am a bit bummed about that, but however, I'm happy we got the clarity I've been looking for, because we were kind of getting to the end of this book, and I'm like, so when are we going to talk about Tessa's necklace and like what it means and what it does and why it behaves the way it does and always protects her? So that was totally fascinating. The next little chunk that we find and we read about is like a battle, because finally Will and the Institute meet up with Tessa. They discover where she's at, and they now have a fight with like the bad guy in his evil lair, and this huge brawl ensues. But then Tessa wins out. She uses her necklace, absorbs the power basically, and is able to defeat everyone and still live, which is a rarity. So she was able to shapeshift into the being that was trapped in her necklace. I'm trying not to spoil it too much, so that way if you guys haven't read it, you can read it and be surprised, because I was surprised when I read it. So all of that happens. We also find out that Jim died at one point in Will's journey. Like his tattoo with his matching tattoo with Jim, it like started to burn, indicating that he was no longer alive. That was depressing and sad, and I cried, and I was just like, this is awful. Circling back to the fight in the evil lair, before Tessa like defeats everyone, it's a battle between like the Institute and the bad guys, and Henry, or sweet Henry, gets badly injured, and I thought he almost died, and I was getting so upset that he was going to be the character that dies. No thank you. He did end up dying, but he is severely injured, so that was sad to read about. But I'm also like, at least you're alive, buddy. Like, I'm happy that you did not fully die, because you're too wholesome and sweet to be taken from us. Major plot twist, so like major spoilers here right now. Jem did not actually die. He turned into a silent brother, and my jaw was on the floor when I read that page. Like, I was so shocked. I didn't see it coming, mostly because Jem had been so insistent on like, he doesn't want to be a silent brother. He just wants to pass away, and that's it. But he decided to go through and try and transform into one of them. There was like a 50-50 chance that he would actually die in the process due to the poison in his body from the drugs that he was taking. But somehow he was able to fully convert. And so he's a silent brother and showed up at this evil battle with some of the other silent brothers. And that had me shook. I just did not expect that at all. It's also just very depressing, because silent brothers basically have to cut off from their normal shadow hunter life. And so it just made me incredibly sad, because Jim was such like, not bubbly, but such a person who connected with everyone and was sweet and had all these ties to humanity that he's just now gonna have to cut off. So like, while I was shocked and happy that he was alive, I was still just like understanding the repercussions of him becoming a silent brother. It's just, he's having to give up a lot. And that just made me incredibly sad. Like, so sad. So it was like mixed reactions there on that reveal, but I definitely did not see that coming. So that was like a fun plot twist that I thoroughly ate up and enjoyed. Everyone's kind of in recovery mode. It's very hit or miss if these people will make it. So like Henry, severely injured. It's very like, is he gonna make it or not? I'm sure he is, but his life will be drastically different. I believe he's like going to be paralyzed or something. Like, his injuries are so bad. So there's that. And then there's also Tessa, because after she absorbs this power, it drains her completely, and she is like on the conscious and unconscious like verge. I just explained that poorly, but she's falling in and out of consciousness. So she's like wobbling on a thin thread of like, is she gonna make it or not? And Will is just distraught, because not only did he think Jem died, but he's also now having to grieve like he's never gonna have that connection with Jem anymore. And the subtlety of like their relationship, of like him always being there, like Jim always being there for Will and like putting his hand on his shoulder, or like the small little moments, because they had Will flashback into those small moments and how he's never going to have those again. Knife to the heart. It just made me more heartbroken for Will and Jim and their friendship, because they have such a beautiful friendship, and seeing that it's no longer going to be able to happen anymore simply because Jem is now a silent brother and they cannot interact anymore outside of rituals and stuff like that, is just very hard and such like a thing to mourn and be sad about. So Will is like mourning his loss of his friendship with Jem, not the fact that he's actually dead, but basically that they won't be able to see each other even though they are both alive. And then also he is freaking out about Tessa, because it's very much like, Tessa, wake up, I need you. So Will's just like distraught and was like mourning and all the emotions, and I'm there with you, Will. Like, this is so much to take in. So that's the 85% mark. I am really curious to see how it's going to wrap up. I guess Will and Tessa are going to be the end game here, but yeah, I don't really know what else is going to be left. So that's 85. I'll check back in once I finish the book. We've officially made it to the end of my reading vlogs for the Infernal Devices. I finally finished A Clockwork Princess, aka book 3 of this little trilogy, and I'm sad to see this series come to an end, or at least this chunk within this world. I know Cassandra Clare has so many books in this universe, but we've officially ended these 3 books story, and I'm actually sad to say goodbye. I thought Cassandra did a beautiful job of showing the messiness of a love triangle, but allowing us to root for each individual separately and for various reasons. I especially loved Will and Jem's friendship. I thought it was beautifully done, beautifully written, and just showcased how simple gestures of a friend can really go the long way, can really impact someone. And when you have to grieve a friendship, how hard that can be, especially when they're your found family. It's hard and it's difficult, and the last book wrecked me. I was in tears at so many points in this book for various reasons, for people dying, coming back, having to say goodbye, and then just in general, how beautiful it was. Definitely make sure to have a box of tissues ready because it's a tearjerker, but in the most beautiful way, and I'm so happy I finally read these. Overall for this series, I think I would give it a 4.25 or a 4.5. There are several moments that I love, but there's also some things that I didn't fully love. Book 1 was definitely setting up for books 2 and 3. It was definitely plot heavy, introducing everyone and just kind of getting a lay of the land, while book 2 focused more so on the romance and the love triangle. And while I did love this, at times I wish we had a bit more action and plot happening. And then same for book 1, sometimes I wished we had more spice or just some more romance development happening. Overall though, pacing was fine between these 2 books, and then book 3 I think did the best job at balancing all of the action and the romance and just how devastatingly beautiful friendship can be, but then at the same time growing old with someone. The epilogue in this, chef's kiss perfection. I was shocked at how it ended in this epilogue, and it just made me cry tears of happiness. And then with Tessa and Will and just them growing a family, again, just like heartache and beautiful, and then sadness all over again. So what a fantastic little trilogy. If you've never read these books, I highly recommend reading them, and I can now understand why people love them. Like, they have fans for a reason. Highly recommend them. I flew through them, and if you're in a reading slump, I would even recommend checking them out because they definitely helped me get out of a reading slump. And I'm now curious to see what the other books are like in the rest of this universe, because if they only get better from here, then I'm excited. So if you read these books, let me know down below what you thought of them, and if there are any other books in this series or in this world that you love, definitely let me know, because after these books, I'm kind of lost on which books to read next / which books are people's favorites. So definitely let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. As always, if you have any book recommendations that are maybe similar to these, or books you think I might like, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll catch you in my next video, guys. Bye!